The train smoke shrouded the horizon. Wyatt Earp bled from the corner of his mouth. Jesse James, on his knees, spat dust and pride. Before them, under the setting sun, Baron Donovan smiled. An army of gunslingers at his back. One shot stood between justice and extinction. If you're into tales of tarnished honor, impossible alliances, and old-fashioned justice, you know what to do. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment which city you're watching from. The Wild West is about to ride into your screen. The wind howled through the loose boards of Dodge Point. Windows rattled with the sound of the future coming. A future of iron, smoke, and false promises. Wyatt Earp leaned against the sheriff's office doorframe, hat low, gaze hard as a spur. The town was small but proud, and he was its last pillar. The chapel bells tolled without soul. Dust rose like a warning. A letter arrived, sealed with black wax, delivered by a pale boy with too many eyes and too little hope. Wyatt read it slowly, each word heavy as lead. To Mr. Earp, be advised that your lands will be crossed by my line. The railroad does not wait, does not negotiate, does not yield. Donovan, Baron of the Iron Line. Wyatt didn't reply. He just chewed the edge of his mustache, fixed his eyes on the horizon, and smelled smoke. The railroad was coming, all right, and it would bring fire. 3 days' ride away, in a nameless town, Jesse James robbed the last bank bold enough to keep its vault full. But he found only papers, promissory notes, titles, all bearing the same name, Donovan. He laughed, a short, bitter laugh, the kind that comes before vengeance. Donovan had bought even the blood of the earth. Even outlaws were left aimless. That night, as the train's rumble grew like thunder, 2 towns burned in silence. In Dodge Point, the school shut its doors. In Devil's Hollow, the water dried up. Both knew this wasn't progress. It was invasion. The West was no longer vast enough. The Iron Line would swallow it all. It was there, amid the smoke and the echo of an out-of-tune piano, that Wyatt Earp and Jesse James crossed paths for the first time. One with a star on his chest, the other with a price on his head. But both had something in common. Nothing to lose. And a shared enemy who believed everything had a price. Night fell like a sheet of coal. In Lady Clara's saloon, the lights flickered like lost prayers. Wyatt entered first. Silence. The men at the poker table froze, cards midair. The piano died on a low C. Jesse James leaned against the bar, a dirty whiskey glass in hand, eyes of a man who'd killed for less. The tension between them filled the air, like gunpowder. One spark would do it. Wyatt tipped his hat, let his gaze settle heavy on the outlaw. "Donovan's coming for you, too," he said, dry as the ground outside. Jesse laughed. "Let him come. I've stolen worse than a railroad soul." "It's not just you," Wyatt replied. "He wants everything. Your town, mine, the whole damn West." "Then to hell with it." Jesse shot back, draining his glass. "This place is already dead. They just haven't buried it." Wyatt tossed his badge on the table. "I'm not here to ask for help. I'm here to warn you that when this all comes crashing down, it'll be nothing but darkness. And in that dark, even outlaws will pray for a lawman nearby." The words lingered, like nails in the floorboards. Jesse went quiet. He thought of his brother, hanged for land that wasn't worth the map, of the tracks slicing through the prairie, and the silence that followed. The next morning, they rode together. No handshake, no promises. The plan was simple. Find the source. The tracks began at Iron Gulch, a ghost town Donovan had turned into a stronghold, a place where the smoke never cleared and men spoke little but shot plenty. On the way, they saw the damage. Burned farms, starving children, citizens turning outlaw for lack of another path. The railroad killed slowly, like poison in the well. Each stop drove home the truth. This wasn't just a track. It was a tumor growing in the heart of the West. Wyatt and Jesse weren't friends, but they carried the same burden. Justice had lost its spurs, honor, its reins. If they wanted to save what was left, they'd have to ride into the snake's nest and pull the Baron's teeth with their bare hands. Iron Gulch was a graveyard dressed as a town. The tracks cut to the main street, like a poorly healed scar. The air carried metallic tang, old blood and burnt oil. The sky hung lower there, and hope was buried with those who'd resisted. Baron Donovan wasn't a man in a suit. He was a granite statue with a copper heart, dressed in black from head to toe, like he'd already buried his past. His office was in the Old Town Bank, now a command tower, with armored windows and walls thick enough to hold back the truth. Outside, his men stood watch with wolf eyes. Ex-Confederates, bounty hunters, gunslingers without a flag, paid in gold and fear. Their orders were clear. Any armed stranger got lead, not a welcome. But Wyatt and Jesse weren't tourists. They arrived at dusk, posing as two outlaws looking for work. They didn't need to fake much. The dirt on their boots and the steel in their eyes said enough. They were met by Silas Craik, Donovan's right hand, a man with a soul rotted by gunpowder and greed. He spoke low and laughed like a snake. "You here for work or trouble?" he asked, eyeing Jesse's hand and the scar on Wyatt's chin. "Work," Jesse said, spitting on the ground. "The kind that pays well and talks little," Wyatt added. Craik studied them for a moment too long, then nodded. "Donovan likes men who don't ask questions. But remember, he builds. Those who destroy vanish." The days that followed were a slow march through hell, hauling tracks, guarding convoys, overhearing whispered plans in the barracks. Wyatt saw the maps, lines crisscrossing the country like venom in its veins. Jesse saw the men, setting ambushes, buying sheriffs, silencing those who still had a voice. And at the center of it all, Baron Donovan, immovable, untouchable, unreachable. But they knew every empire has a crack. They found one, small, but enough. A locomotive loaded with dynamite was set to leave in 3 days, bound for Devil's Hollow, to blast through what remained of the town. It was a final straw. If they wanted to stop Donovan, it would be on that train. But sabotaging the line was suicide, and challenging the Baron, an invitation to oblivion. Still, Wyatt tightened his holster. Jesse gripped his rifle. "No turning back," Wyatt said. "Never was," Jesse replied. Across town, the Baron smiled over his map, unaware that 2 ghosts were watching. Dawn fell thick as ink over Iron Gulch. The clock read 3:40. The air reeked of oil, gunpowder, and betrayal. The locomotive waited. Black as sin, it puffed silent smoke, ready to tear the west apart with iron and fire. Inside, crates marked with an eagle, but they didn't hold supplies. They carried dynamite, enough to erase Devil's Hollow from the map. Jesse and Wyatt emerged from the shadows like starving wolves. No uniforms, no badges, just 2 men driven by one truth. If the Baron crossed that track, everything there would turn to dust. They crept along the train's side, dodging guard with the wind at their heels. Each step was a verdict. Jesse cut wires. Wyatt planted powder in silence, like sowing a new beginning. But Craik appeared before they finished. "I knew it," he snarled, shotgun raised, one eye twitching with hate. 2 old dogs trying to bite fate. The silence that followed lasted less than a thought. Wyatt's first shot ricocheted off the wagon's side. Jesse rolled and fired back. The gunfire woke the town's ghosts. Men poured from the shadows. Bullets swarmed like bees. Jesse leapt onto the moving train. Wyatt followed. Inside, everything shook, metal, wood, and courage. Craik climbed to the wagon's roof. Screaming like a mad prophet, Jesse met him with fists, their guns spent. The fight was dirty, fast, raw. It ended with Craik flying off the tracks, swallowed by the night. In the last wagon, Wyatt found the core, the detonator, a simple relay. One touch would do it. Then Donovan appeared, on a hilltop, astride his horse. Rifle in hand, eyes like marble. He shouted something the wind stole, but his aim was steady. Wyatt froze. Jesse grabbed the fallen gun. "Now or never," he whispered. Wyatt nodded and pulled the trigger. An explosion tore the sky like thunder on dry land. The train became a blaze. The tracks twisted like broken bones. On the ground, Wyatt and Jesse rolled through embers and smoke. Alive, bloodied, but alive. From the hill, Donovan vanished into dark, on horseback. neither dead nor victorious. The war wasn't over, but the legend had begun. The sun rose pale over Iron Gulch, bathing the ruins in a faint light of judgment. The tracks were twisted, charred. The train lay like a dead beast, its molten steel mixed with red earth. Wyatt Earp sat on a rock, staring at the horizon, hands caked in soot, eyes olden before. Beside him, Jesse James tied a rag around his wounded arm. "Think it's done?" Jesse asked, spitting blood and smoke. "Done for today," Wyatt replied. "But a man who builds with greed always comes back with more nails." The towns were safe. For now, Devil's Hollow rang its church bell at noon, for the first time in years. In Dodge Point, kids played in the streets again. But everyone knew this was just a breather, a pause between storms. Donovan's name carried on the wind. Some said he fled north to rebuild his plans. Others, that he fell into a ravine and was swallowed by the rocks. But no one saw a body. No one saw a grave. And Wyatt and Jesse, they vanished the next day. No goodbyes, no tracks, just horses caked in road dust and the lingering smell of gunpowder. Some say they became partners. Others, that they went back to hating each other. The truth got lost in the dust of time. But one thing remained, the legend of two enemies who stood together for a moment, when law and desperation rode side by side. If this story made your heart race faster than a wild Mustang's gallop, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment. Which Wild West legend do you want to see next? The campfire still burns and the stories aren't done. Till next time,